If you recently got the brand new DJI Neo drone, there are a few settings that you might want to consider changing in order to enhance the user experience. Here are a few of those. The first thing that you should be doing with your DJI Neo drone, well, you won't be able to use it without doing this, is go to your app store and then go to the search and search for DJI Fly and look for the application. Make sure that this application is up to date. So if you don't see open and you see update, make sure it's updated. Open up your DJI Fly app and then connect to your DJI Neo, join its Wi-Fi network, and then once it's connected, you might see a new firmware update that pops up right away. Make sure you are up to date in order to get the latest new features and changes. For me, before I did one of the first firmware updates for the DJI Neo, I didn't have the ability to record using my microphone. I didn't have the ability to record 1080p at 60 fps. I didn't have the ability to use voice controls. So make sure you update your DJI Neo firmware version. It's not the fly safe update, but the DJI Neo firmware. You can also find this by going into your profile, and if you go to where it says settings right there and you check for firmware update, it's only that I have my data disabled, but you should be able to see a new firmware update, and it's encouraged to update your device to the latest firmware. The second setting I encourage you to change on your DJI Neo is go where it says Fly right here and go to your settings, and under the settings tab, I will just reduce my brightness just a little bit. You see these smart snap modes. These modes that you see here correspond to the different quick snap modes that your drone has right here. So if I press a button, follow, and it goes all the way
direction track
to direction track. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because if you go into your DJI Fly app setting and then you see these smart snap modes, you can go into them and change the follow distance. So if you want follow distance to be close and follow height to be like low, you can easily change that. And what I recommend doing is changing them according to your environment. So if you're in an area where you are like have low branches or plants or sticking out, then you might want to go to far follow distance at a high elevation. But then if you are like skateboarding or bike riding in a forest and you have high tall trees and that have branches that your drone might bump into, you might want to consider follow distance like medium at flat height or low height in order to avoid that. And the good thing about the DJI Neo is the fact that once you set these presets, you can go and switch off your drone and it will keep those presets. And even if you remove your battery, it will save those presets that you would have set for each quick snap mode right here. So if you set something for the follow, it's going to save that. At the same time, the custom mode, which is mode number 6 that you see here, is going to change according to what you set it to. So in your DJI application right here, what you want to do is go to the setting right there, and you see this mode that says custom. Click on it, and custom mode here, you have the ability to select 3 things. You can choose helix, boomerang, or direction track. And for me, listen to the mode that it has set right now.
Follow, drone, circ, rocket, spotlight, direction track.
So it's set to direction track, and if I'm taking off to a place where I won't be able to use my iPhone or my smartphone connection, then I want to make sure I set this custom mode to what I want it to be. So if we were to go here and go to from direction track and say like helix, and then I can choose max distance with helix right there. So if I don't want it to go too high, or if I want it to go high as possible, which is 20 meters, then you can see now if I go back to the same mode, helix, and that means helix has been set and it's going to maintain that 20 meters. And this is how you can choose this mode. You don't have the ability to change that or change the distance or the follow height from this single button right here. Another thing that you need to look into with your DJI Neo is voice controls. And yes, with the Neo, you have the ability to record both video and audio while the drone is flying, and that accessed by using this microphone icon. And you can see right there, when you turn it on, it tells you use your mobile device or an external microphone to record audio for aerial videos. During recording, do not turn screen off or switch to other apps. And then you click OK, you agree. Now, something that's cool about the DJI Neo, if you go into your settings and turn this microphone on, of course, before you begin flying, you have the ability to use either your iPhone's microphone. Maybe the iPhone 16 won't be such a bad recording because according to Apple, they've added 4 studio quality microphones. But if you've looked at some of my videos while I was in the park recording with the DJI Neo, and you have an external microphone like this Holy Land mics, these are pretty small to adapt or to put on your shirt, and they use magnets. And if you were to connect that into the port of your iPhone and then just have the mic on your shirt and begin flying, then the audio quality that you are going to get is going to be much better than just using the phone's inbuilt microphone, and that's going to add richer audio and enhance your user experience when it comes to the audio that you are going to be able to capture. And just like I mentioned, for me, before I did the important firmware update, I didn't have the ability to use my microphone, so it's pretty much important to go into your settings and update your firmware version. Another setting you might want to look at, if you go into your setting right here and go to the camera setting, this is where you have the ability to change your resolution. You can change from 4K, unfortunately just limited to 4K 30, and then 1080p. You can go to 1080p at 60 frames per second. And right here, what I usually do is set it to 4K right there at 30 FPS, because I want to be able to use the maximum resolution that this device can record at. So you might want to look into changing it, and it keeps the default setting as well, that you set your video resolution and frame rate, and by default it comes with 4K 30 set. But in case you need like footage that you want to slow down without having this jittery effect, you'll be able to record 1080p at 60 FPS. I just wish DJI would put a firmware update that provides like 2.7K at 60 FPS, because if you can do 4K, then for sure it can do 2.7K as well. If you're just using the DJI Fly app on your iPhone or on your device to be able to record footage, you don't have the ability to actually change the exposure. So that's something that's unfortunate, but hopefully I think DJI is pretty much responsive when it comes to issues like this. And if you have the DJI RC controller that allows you to pair it with your phone, you have the ability to change the exposure. Or if you have the RC controller itself that has a screen, then you also have the ability to change the exposure. I'm just using this for demonstration purposes because this RC1 that comes with the Mini 3 Pro is not compatible with the Neo. Apparently the radio protocols that these devices use are not compatible, so we might not see the RC1 that comes with the DJI Mini 3 Pro get supported with the DJI Neo. But it's cool to know that if you have the RC2 that comes with the Mini 4 Pro, it looks like this, but it has the antennas, like instead of having these Wi-Fi or radio frequency items, it has actual antennas that is now supported, all thanks to like a software update that came with the DJI Neo. That was the first software update, which was good. So it would be cool to get the ability to change exposure and just lock it manually on the DJI Fly app. Another important setting that you might want to look into changing for your DJI Neo drone is by going into the more settings right here, and under this more settings you can see, if you go to the control section, you have the ability to enable voice controls, and of course you have to be on the latest firmware in order to see this. So you have the ability to turn voice controls off or turn them on, and if you say things like "Hey fly," okay, I'll turn up my volume so that you can hear what it says. "Hey fly,
Go ahead.
take off."
Got it.
you can see the drone had began to take off. So you might want to turn this on, and of course you have the ability to say, hey fly, follow, hey fly, circle. Let me cancel that prompt. I'll put it upside down so that it doesn't take off. But yeah, you can see under this you have different commands that you can do, such as follow, circle, spotlight. You can say 4 meters drone. So because you can't use this custom button to change the different custom modes that you might have, you might say, okay, rocket 20 meters, or rocket far follow, or close follow. So it compensates for that in a way by adding this setting here that you can use recordings to say like 2 meter circle, you can say rocket, you can say helix, or you can say closer, further, lower, higher. And under the safety, if you see your drone is about to crash something, you can say, hey fly, brake.
Go ahead. Okay.
And then it will say, okay. And then if you want it to land or stop, you can say this phrase here that will trigger the drone, and then it's going to do whatever you want. So this voice controls is a way that you can be able to change into the settings and be able to change this modes without having to go into the actual phone right here. But you do have to have your phone, of course, for it to be able to detect the mic, because if the drone is flying, it doesn't have a microphone to hear what you are saying. So you do need to have your phone with you and the DJI Fly app open in order to be able to do this. So this is something that you can use if you are like recording with 2 devices and you want to have the convenience of the voice controls. Another setting that was on by default but was turned off by a software update is if you go into your DJI Fly app and go to your album, and you see a pop-up screen and say got it. If you go into, or if you tap these 3 dots right here, you'll be able to see skin effects. And if you turn on skin effects, you notice files being previewed or downloaded from the aircraft will automatically undergo glamour effect processing, only applicable to files in standard color format, 4K 60 FPS and below. And because the DJI Neo records 4K 30 FPS, then it will apply this skin effect to your videos. And that's something that was on by default, but a firmware update turned it off. And in order to turn this on, you can go into your settings and turn it on right there. And then if you want body effects as well, you'll be able to see it right there. So if you want like it to process your images or your footage to make your face look slimmer or in a way, or to use skin effects to beautify you or stuff like that, these are settings that you can turn on. But for me, these are settings that I don't use by default. I'm happy that they left these preferences off. And those are just some of the few settings that you can turn on or off with the DJI Neo to enhance the user experience. Of course, there's much more that you can do in order to enhance the video quality and the footage. I'll be covering that pretty soon. And if you want to see more on the DJI Neo, definitely hit the like and subscribe so that you don't miss out. My name is Ben and I'm signing out.